Welcome to Pack Talk Podcast, episode 146. Today we're talking about dog training lessons learned. We've got all of the trainers from Canine Revolution. We've got myself. We've got Chris. If you don't know Chris, he loves donuts. He loves, as confirmed by a recent video that may not be on our social media.
I mean, if you don't, you got problems.
We've got JC, who loves Jocko's. We've got Danny, who loves Jocko's. As you can see, they're drinking American-made energy drinks that are good for you. Jocko, go. Chris?
Chris,
I already had mine.
Oh, you already had it. All right, so we're good. We're good. Everybody's loaded
I show up ready to go.
So if you've been working hard at your dog training over the year, whether or not this is your first time listening to Pack Talk Podcast or you heard us before, you know that there's mistakes that we all make whenever we're training dogs. And I've been training dogs since 2016. I still make mistakes. All of us here have been training dogs for a while, and we make mistakes. We also see some common mistakes that people are making. So what I wanted to do today is sit down, not take a lot of time, but everybody tell a mistake that they're seeing commonly among dog owners. That way we can all learn from that, and then give a mistake that we have made ourselves in this past year as we're wrapping up 2025. What can we do to learn as we move into 2026? And so that's what we're going to talk about today real quick. We're not going to take too much time, but I will say I'll start off myself. One mistake I make myself, which is something that I'm always trying to be conscious of in my head, is the dog at hand, progressing the dog at hand at their level. So what happens with me is, I have a lot going on, right? I got some dogs I'm training. I've got to go to different places. I'm trying to work out. I'm trying to take care of my kids and all that. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm doing. And so sometimes whenever I'm doing my training sessions with the dogs that I'm working with, I feel like, the dog should be getting this a little bit faster, right? I feel like, okay, we should be getting this faster. We should be getting this faster. And I have to really slow down and make myself realize that the dog at hand is not the dog I just finished training, or not the dog that I'm training tomorrow or in the next session. It's the dog that I'm working with right now. So I have to slow myself down. I have to think about the dog that I'm working with. Slow yourself down. Stop thinking about everything else. Stay focused on the session that you're in. Stay focused on this dog's progression. Where's this dog at in their progression? What's their individual personality traits? What's going on right now? What happened yesterday? What are we trying to get to tomorrow? And slow myself down, help that dog through that moment, and then understand, do I need to add sessions to this dog's training regimen, or do I need to reduce sessions? Do I need to do other things, right? So that's something that I catch myself doing, even after training dogs for however many years, since 2016. It's like 9 years. So that's something I still catch myself doing. So I know for a fact, if you're someone that's listening to this, you could be falling into this trap as well. And what I'd say is, what really helps me is, as soon as I start feeling those feelings, right? This dog should be moving faster. We should be beyond this point. Just pause, slow down, take a break if you need to, and think about the where you're really at in reality, right? What dog is this? Where are we actually at? What is our goal? And how are we going to get there? What things do I need to implement to help this dog even more, right? Because if the dog is progressing slower or having a hard time progressing, it's because I'm not giving them the information they need at that point in time where they're at in their progression, right? Which means I have to change what I'm doing, right? It's not the dog, it's me, right? So I have to assess myself, what I'm giving to the dog, and go from there. So that's a big lesson for me. It's something I'm always conscious of. If you're not conscious of this, you need to start thinking like that, right? And like I said, it's something that it happens to me all the time, honestly. I'll be training a dog, and I'm like, okay, this dog's not getting it, right? We should be here, but we're behind, right? You're not really behind. It's just that dog in particular. What do you need to do for that dog? So that's something I struggle with, something that I focus on, and I'm very conscious of it, right? Very conscious of it. So anyway, with that being said, we'll move to Chris. What's a lesson you've learned this year?
Well, I mean, it's a lesson that I know and I always learn, and I learn it every year, and I continue to develop, is check the ego. I think and it's very similar to a lot of the stuff you're talking about. But I mean, the specific incident for me was a dog that I was training. We had progressed through obedience. We had progressed all through our progression to the point where the dog could receive corrections. This dog was having issues in the crate Dog goes in the crate, turns around, boom, gets aggressive, right? And so we have protocols for those types of things where it's like, okay, if a dog is doing this type of behavior and they're at a certain point in the progression, we're going to correct that behavior. Well, the corrections weren't working. In fact, the corrections over time are making this behavior worse. Dog goes in the crate, immediately goes into an aggressive mindset. And so like you mentioned, pausing is a big thing because the ego can take over. You have to be very conscious of this, right? Because you can go all sorts of places here with your ego, and it can get unhealthy. You can get tunnel vision into like, oh, I'm gonna correct this dog, right? And it's not gonna solve the problem, and it's not the proper technique to use, right? So you have to take a break and go, all right, why are we having this problem? Let's rely on the science. Let's go to what we know about dog behavior, and let's look at everything. And so like I felt the ego coming in, you know what I mean? And I had to take a break and go, all right, let's just let me detach and think about the science here. What's going on? All right, this behavior is classically conditioned. And once you understand how all that works, right? It's like this is an involuntary behavior. Just like when your doorbell goes off and your dog reacts, you can ring that doorbell and the dog will react and bark or whatever. It's like the dog has almost no control over that behavior at that point. It's just ingrained in them.
Right.
And so then you have to ask, yes, I've taken that dog through a training progression. Yes, I can use my reinforcements and I can use my accountability. But in this specific scenario, is it fair to correct this dog for something that it has no control over? And in fact, by correcting it, potentially you're making this thing much worse. And which really all you need to do is now desensitize that thing, which is super, super easy fix. But you can get, especially from the training perspective, if you're a dog trainer, you can get sucked into that ego, sucked into that tunnel vision of like, oh, heck no, this dog's not going to buck up on me or whatever. Like, hey, no, we're gonna just hammer this behavior out. We're gonna go in the kennel, out the kennel, in the kennel, out the kennel. We're gonna and really you're not accomplishing anything when you could just take a little tweak and just say, all right, let's go in the crate, come out and engage. We do some engagement. We're gonna throw some food in there and play some crate games and different things. Like we have tons of tactics, and I've dealt with this scenario many times over the years and done many different tactics. But this was one moment this year that I'm like, I predicted the ego getting in the way, and I think sometimes that comes with experience that you can predict that the ego's coming up, because sometimes you don't. I know in my early days it's like that ego would take over and you don't catch it, you know, and so you have to be cognizant of that and really, like you said, detach and think, okay, what I'm doing is not working. Why is it not working? And what do we need to do to resolve this?
Well, two things that makes me think of. Number one, you know, as the more years that you train, the more if you're in a good team environment and structure and a mindset to like build upon yourself, right, or develop yourself, you realize those things more. But the other thing I was thinking, or there's actually three things. Number one, that's what I was thinking is like as you're get more experienced, I guess you spend more time training dogs, you know, you start thinking about those things differently if you're in the professional development mindset, which is easier in a team versus by yourself, you know. But the second thing it makes me think of is because of the team environment too, it helps you check your ego, right? Because you're not just accountable to yourself,
right?
You know, you're accountable to the people around you. You know that you're being watched, right? And it makes you have a different level of like
self-awareness,
critical thinking,
almost,
self-awareness, problem solving, because you know you're being watched by the team. You know things are going on around you, right? Versus if you were by yourself, let's say you're a dog trainer by yourself at your house and you can do whatever you want, whether it's right or wrong, right? You may or may not have the integrity to do the right thing. And you might go that route of just, I'm going to correct this dog and just start hammering the dog and really create a worse problem, right? Then the third thing I was thinking when you were talking was classical conditioning is happening all the time. There's so many behaviors that people are dealing with their dogs where the root thing is the classical conditioning, right? It's so strong. And so you have to somehow break that cycle. Like for your situation in particular, dog goes in the kennel, it's classically conditioned to turn around and become aggressive in the kennel. How do we break that cycle? Like you said, there's a bunch of tactics to try and break that cycle, but that's just one example. Like people in their house where their dog gets crazy over the doorbell, that's classical conditioning. You know, people in their house when they grab the leash and the dog goes crazy, that's classical conditioning, right? People are leaving their house, their dog gets separation anxiety, that's probably classical conditioning in combination with other things. So when you understand that and you understand learning theory and the science of dog training and behavior and everything, you can figure out, okay, this is actually a classically conditioned response. We have to somehow break this classically conditioned cycle and, counter condition them to something else, and then the problem is, how many repetitions is that going to take to counter condition them?
Right. Well, and that's a huge. That's
the commitment part of it.
Problem,
Well, that's a big difference too between like when you're talking about, because we harp on this. Like if you look at we've got many resources on how to vet dog trainers. That's why we harp on ask about these things. What's your understanding of classical conditioning and operant conditioning? If like in that scenario, I felt the ego coming in. If I didn't have that knowledge, right. Of the science of classical conditioning, how it works, and I would not have recognized it.
Right.
To somebody that could just be like, okay, this dog is challenging me for dominance, and now you need to alpha roll this dog or what, you know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of trainers that do this and they don't really understand that like that dog's not consciously saying F you. Like it's just a conditioned response. It literally has no control. It's as if somebody rang a doorbell and he's like, I'm just supposed to do this thing. And it's not personal because I can take that dog right out of the crate, go on a walk. We'll engage. We're fine. There's nothing personal going on there. It's just a conditioned response. And if you're not a well-developed trainer and you've studied the science, you're not going to recognize that. And so that's why it's important if you are, especially if you're going to do like a board and train type training. This is a good example of why you want to vet that kind of stuff with your trainer.
Exactly. Danny, let's go through a lesson you learned this year.
For sure.
That you became aware of.
So I think it ties into a lot of what both of you are saying, but for me personally, it's something that I'm definitely conscious of and I've gotten a lot better at is remembering to like kind of slow down, like how you guys are saying, but number one, give myself a break. Like I can feel when with certain dogs, you start to get frustrated and kind of like going back to what you said with the team aspect, that does help because I can definitely say I've gotten more frustrated with my personal dog than some dogs that I've trained, you know what I mean? Which is common, I feel like, because
scenarios with your personal dog.
Yeah, I have for sure. You know what I mean? So it's like
that you work through it.
And exactly. It's like we work through it, but it's also like with my personal dog, it's like you definitely see like when you get frustrated when you're training, when you're frustrated when you're training, it regresses. You know what I mean? So whether you are a trainer or you're just an owner working on training your dog at home, remember to slow down and give yourself a break. Whether it's you're worrying about the dog at hand, worrying about a progression, worrying about whatever you might be frustrated about, remember to take a break, maybe set a time limit for your sessions. That's something that I've done because I'd found myself with certain dogs spending a lot of time with them trying to hammer out behaviors, essentially hammer out troubleshooting.
Right.
And I've been like, okay, 10 minutes maximum with this dog, and then we're gonna have a break. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, or just go on a walk. Right? It doesn't have to be like if I'm getting frustrated with a dog. It's not like I'm gonna hammer out these behaviors. It's like I'm gonna spend 5 minutes on this behavior and then go for a 5-minute walk or 10-minute walk or whatever to number one, give myself a break, but also end off on a positive note, which is another thing that I have gotten very cognizant about, is ending off on a positive note. Like I don't want to end off on a harsh correction. I don't want to end off on anything negative for me or for the dog. I always want it to be a positive experience when that dog goes back in the kennel and when it first comes out of the kennel, right? So definitely slowing down, definitely, acknowledging when you are getting frustrated. Like as soon as you can acknowledge that, reel back, you know what I mean? Because if you keep pressing on, number one, it's stressful for you, it's stressful for the dog, and it's not progressing anywhere in training. So I think I had a dog probably close to a year ago that was like, this is a kind of like what you were saying, a conditional response, where like I'm walking the dog past dogs outside and it's every time it's lunging at this dog and I'm just trying to hammer it out. I'm trying to correct this behavior. It's just keeps happening, right? And I think you were out there watching me and you told me like, hey, take a break. You know what I mean? Take a break, slow down, we'll reassess. And that helped that dog and helped me because I was getting frustrated. I was getting stressed out because it's not working. The training's not working. It's not working, right? So, and you helped me with that, kind of plant that in my mind to slow down, take a break, reassess, right? Which again kind of goes into what both you guys were saying. But that's what I've noticed myself, that you will get frustrated, you will overcomplicate things, and it's best to slow down, reassess. For sure.
And I think what you just said, your lesson learned, gave me two thoughts. Number one, I think people are on one side of the spectrum or the other when it comes to like getting frustrated with training. Either they're getting frustrated because they have a goal they want to meet, they want to be XYZ, and the dogs, you know, they're having a difficult time getting there, so they get frustrated and they need to slow down, like we said. Or you got the people that like have the goal, but they're so lackadaisical about their process getting there that the dog is just working so hard against them, and they just don't care enough. You know, the dog's giving them a hard time. Like, let's just say a reactive dog, it's giving the owner a hard time. The owner wants to be able to enjoy the dog, walk the dog, not have those problems, but they're not willing to put in enough repetition or structure to actually achieve their goal. So they're not, you know, pushing their progression enough, right? So I think it goes both ways. And I think the person that's not pushing enough is getting frustrated too, but it's a different kind of frustration. Like, my dog's not getting to the goal, but it's not like they're pushing the dog, right? And in the progression, it's like they just expect the dog to get there without real work. You see what I'm saying?
They're missing the accountability for themselves.
It's a mindset.
The self-accountability.
Like you said, my dog's not getting there.
Exactly.
It should be we are not getting there.
Exactly.
Right? Like we are a team. We are working towards a goal as handler and dog, as owner and dog. It's not about, why is my dog not getting us? Why are we not getting us? There's a disconnect between us.
The team aspect.
Yeah.
It kind of connects all of our lessons learned up to this point, because if my dog's not getting there, you know, if I'm the kind of person that's saying my dog's not getting there, then that means I have to look at what inputs I'm giving to the dog. You see what I'm saying? So I have to really look at myself.
Yeah.
You know, take ownership.
Can't
for
never
that
blame the
situation.
dog, because the dog's gonna do what it does. You know,
Exactly.
what I mean? Only we can have an effect on
The dog's
that.
a product of the environment, and it's our responsibility to set up the environment properly, right? But the second thing your lesson learned made me think about is, as a dog trainer that does board and train programs, one of the things that I've struggled with myself over this past year is, you know, I'm progressing the dog. I know in my head where the dog needs to be, how much time it's going to take to get there. You know, we also provide routine updates to the dog owner. You see what I'm saying? I don't know if a lot of trainers do that, but we are very routine about providing consistent updates to the owner. And we have a timeline for our updates, right? But what if I have a dog that needs to like go slower, right, to get my updates out, right? The updates that I'm providing to the owner. And so the owner, they have something in their head, right, that's different than what's in my head, right? And so their expectation is that the dog's going to make a bunch of progress in a very quick amount of time.
For sure.
When maybe it might. Some dogs might do that. Some dogs might not do that. So being able to explain to the owner in a way that the owner can hopefully understand where their dog's at, what their dog needs, and why they need that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So having that communication and being able to communicate in a way that the owner can understand is, you know, something that's important. But it is something that kind of is in my head, because, you know, I want to like push the dog to get the updates
For
on
the
time, for the owner
Yeah.
on time and everything. But sometimes the dog does need to be slowed down.
Yeah.
It takes some more time, stretch out those updates. And so I have to be able to explain to the owner where the dog's at, give them, you know, what the dog needs, and make sure I'm doing all the things that need to be done to keep progressing that dog. You see what I'm saying? So that can be a little bit of a, like when you're a dog trainer doing a board and train, that can cause a little bit of like stress, because you're trying to balance that out. You're trying to have the dog's best interest in mind, train the dog appropriately, but also balance out the owner's expectations.
For sure.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, some owners don't have realistic expectations too.
That's true.
You know, so like that's a stress factor.
Right.
It's like, but in reality, you can't, when you're training, you can't worry about that. Like what you're saying, you have to worry about setting the dog at hand up for success and explaining to the owners the type of dog that they are dealing with.
Right.
And what it's going to take for them to reach their goals. Like in a 4-week board and train, you might not overcome that anxiety. You might not overcome that reactivity in the neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like being able to explain to them is super important to mitigate that stress factor, but also again set up that dog for its individual success.
Right.
100%.
JC, what's your major lesson learned from the year?
I mean, I feel like mine, it's a little bit of kind of what you guys are saying, like slowing down, but also looking at the big picture. Like you can look at the dog in front of you and you're like, we had a great rep of this, but now this time this is not repping out good. What other factors could be contributing to that? You know, maybe that dog needs more exercise. It's too anxious in this environment to really think. So you might need new exercise, needing to slow it down, you know, like not just jumping into it. I feel like that's something I did a lot once I started getting especially into distraction work with my dogs. I'm like, all right, you know, I have 2 weeks left with this dog. I'm going to really harp out these distraction sessions, but I need to slow them down and start lower distraction versus going like right into Home Depot or something like that. Like I dealt with that with a couple dogs, high anxiety, did like one low level distraction, took them into like a park. They were great. Take them into Home Depot. Now the dog's freaking out. I'm like, okay, too soon, right? Need to slowly work my way up to that. And then also the team aspect was like different for me this year, right? Because before I didn't come from that. So I have a hard time being like, hey, you know, what do I do in this situation? I'm like trying to figure it out by myself. So I definitely learned like over the year of being here, work with the team, right? If you're struggling with something, you don't have to figure it out by yourself, especially when you're in the team training environment. Ask somebody, right? Because we all have different experiences. We all have different levels of experience. So, you know, working together and asking questions is going to help also change perspective, because you could be so stuck in your own perspective. Having that outside opinion and that outside look can definitely help you train better, do better, and work well or better with that dog that you're handling. For
sure. So let's go around now. We'll give one lesson learned that, you know, we just talked about our major lessons learned ourselves, but what's some common things you guys are seeing dog owners struggle with, right, that you're out there with? And one thing that I'll say for myself, you know, there's a bunch of things, right, but I'm trying to think of like the most common things that you might see with people, right? And it kind of goes along with some of our other lessons learned, but unrealistic expectations and inconsistencies among like a couple or a family, right? So unrealistic expectations and inconsistencies kind of go hand in hand, because let's say you have a couple, they have a dog, one person envisions one thing with the dog, the other person envisions something else with the dog, right? So there's a little bit of an inconsistent expectation there, and that's okay. Like we could, you know, depending on the situation, everything that they want could be accomplished, right? This person could be able to do this and that person could be able to do that with the dog. But, you know, being able to communicate to the family as a whole, right? What are our realistic, you know, realities of what could potentially happen with training? And then the second thing is the inconsistent expectations, you know, especially when a dog completes training, they go back home from like a board and train, for example. You've got certain members of the family that will do X, Y, Z that we have, you know, prescribed to them to do. Then you'll have other family members that may not do X, Y, Z, and so they might struggle a little bit more with the dog. And that little bit of inconsistency can hurt people, right? Or hurt families or hurt like your goals, right? So what I would say to most people when you're thinking about training your dog or dog training is consistency, right? We got to get everybody on the same page as much as possible. And there are situations where I'm working with the family. One person wants one thing, they want to do X, Y, Z. The other person wants to do something else, they want to do, you know, A, B, C. And sometimes that adaptability is totally fine. This person can do X, Y, Z. That person can do A, B, C. Everything's cool. But if there's a situation where let's just say a reactive dog, extremely reactive, this dog needs, you know, serious prescription of protocols. Now we need to be more consistent as a whole. So we got to figure out what can everybody do, right? So that's something that I see a lot of people doing. But what about you, Chris? What do you got as a major?
Well, I was going to take the same one, but a little bit of a different take. It was unrealistic expectations for the dog, or potentially the dog owner relationship more specifically, but also rushing the process. And I think those things go hand in hand. That's been kind of the common theme of everything that we're talking about here. Like faster is not better in dog training. Slow it down. And where the unrealistic expectations come in, especially in a board and train, it's like you may have a certain picture in your head of what you're going to be, what your dog is coming home after that board and train, right? Let's say, and our programs are long compared to most people. So we're like 6 weeks is our most popular program, which a lot of people are like, holy crap, that's a long time to send my dog to you.
Right.
But you don't, like from our perspective, that's nothing. Nothing. And especially when we start talking about dogs that are having behavior issues, reactivity, aggression, whatever. Now this dog's been doing this for 2 years. It's a strong behavior. 6 weeks, 4 weeks, especially when you start going less than 6 weeks, it's nothing. It's not a lot of time. And so I think a common expectation is that this board and train program, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, I don't care, is going to fix this problem. And it's going. Your dog's going to come back a different dog.
Yeah.
It's like that's not the case. Like these behaviors are rooted. What the board and train is, it's going to teach. It's gonna bypass a little bit of the progression as far as what you're gonna do as far as the leg work, right? Like we're gonna teach the expectations, teach the dog how to be communicated to, and then we're gonna start to prep that by taking them out into the real world. But we are also developing a relationship with your dog, and so we are going to see very quick success in that 6 weeks or that 4 weeks or whatever, because you have a job, a 9 to 5. You have to have structured training time. That is our job, day in, day out, every single day. We're working your dog. We're exercising your dog. We're bonding with your dog. We're going into scenarios, teaching your dog how to overcome insecurity, anxiety, whatever. And so we're going to see quick results. Now, at the end of that 6 weeks, we bring that dog back home. It's not a magic show, right? And so, like, a lot of times, I feel like even despite explaining this to people, sometimes the mindset is, well, it'll be resolved. It's going to be resolved. I'm going to pay X amount of money for this. Boom, my problems are gone. It's like, no, you still have to develop that relationship with your dog. There's a relational component that people just struggle to want to do and to want to develop, and they just want the problem to be resolved. And so it's like the tools are now there to resolve the problem, and the responsibility fall. And I'm not trying to attack owners, right? Like that's just a common thing I see, because there's a lot of responsibility on the trainer. Like we've talked about, if the dog's not getting something, that's you need to be teaching that dog. What do we need to do to help that dog? So you, as the dog trainer, if a client's not getting something or understanding the picture of how to develop a relationship with the dog, it's your job as the trainer to paint that picture, to explain things. Maybe you have to explain the science. Maybe you have to show them physically. Maybe you have to write it out for them, which we do a combination of all of those things. But at the end of the day, the trainer cannot do that part for you. That's a part you have to do. And so that's where I see a lot of unrealistic expectations, and the rushing comes in because, again, the perspective is, well, my dog's trained now. They just did a 6 weeks board and train. They're trained. So let's go to this step. Let's go out to the farmer's market. It's like, the dog doesn't trust you. I hate to say it. Like, I don't want to offend you, but like, your dog does not trust you because they have a pattern of behavior with you prior to training that led to them doing their reactivity or whatever the thing is that they're doing. We have to repair that. We've got the tools to repair it. Now we have to repair that. And so again, that's why people, we have a very strict protocols as to how we have the structure of that dog when they come home from training. And so some people want to rush that. And some people it's fine when you do that. But when the more complex the behaviors we're talking about, the more important it is to follow those protocols.
Yeah. One thing what you just said makes me think about, which is very important, is like, let's say someone's signing up their dog for a 6 week board and train. 6 weeks is nothing to us. It's also hardly anything to your dog, And if you have a 2-year-old dog that's been practicing whatever your problem is, let's just say leash pulling, for example. Let's say they're practicing leash pulling for 2 years. We can resolve leash pulling relatively easily with most dogs, but some dogs it is a challenge, right? Because the classical conditioning is so strong. And then the other thing that we want to do is help the dog be motivated to want to do what you want it to do. And so some dogs need some more time to build up that motivation, desire for what you want them to do, So that's why our programs are the way they are, is because, 6 weeks might be a long time to you, which it would be to anyone that's sending their dog away. Sure. Right? But in the big scheme of things, 6 weeks is a very small amount of time to work on things that may have been, fostering for years, right? Which is also why when that dog comes home, it may take more protocol at home and consistency at home at first to help that dog transition their skills back home to you, right? Danny, what do you got?
For sure. So kind of tying in to a little bit of what you guys are saying, but the biggest things that I feel like that I've seen is lack of consistency, not just like in general, like not just among members of the family consistently, but like over like a year, where like, hey, maybe for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, they've been really on top of it on maintaining not just the training, but tackling their individual issues with their dog, whether it's anxiety, reactivity, whatever it might be. And then maybe, life gets busy, they kind of fall off in that, right? Some these behaviors emerge, right? I've had plenty of dogs that, I train for 4-6 weeks, bring the dog home for 3 months. Things are great. I'm checking in with them. They're on track. Things are awesome. And now, 6 months later, they're calling me like, hey, it's the same as it was before training because they have lost that consistency aspect, right? Whether that is like I've had, reactivity that has reemerged that for months it was great. And then for maybe a month or two, they get lax with it. The dog is practicing more of these behaviors and now they are more conditioned than they were than when they came home because because of the lack of consistency. Or I've had, some cases with kennel anxiety where we've worked with the dog for a set amount of time. The anxiety's gotten better. I bring the dog home for a couple of months. The anxiety is almost diminished, and then they lose the consistency and they lose keeping track of the behavior, and then it kind of just goes out the window. So that's a big piece of it where like a lot of dogs, depending on the behavior, it needs to be a day in and day out consistency thing where like either you're teaching a hyperactive dog to be calm, an anxious dog to to desensitize certain things that make them anxious, a reactive dog not to react. It's like that thing needs to be consistent day in and day out with every scenario that you're doing. It needs to be the same, right? So that's the biggest thing that I think I've seen where like they fall off in their consistency. The other aspect is kind of like what Chris was saying, the relationship aspect, where I think it's overlooked by a lot of people. I think I've had a lot of clients that it's easier for them to correct their dog. It's more efficient for them to do that. But in reality, how is that affecting your relationship? Is that all you're doing to your dog? Are you only correcting your dog when it is doing the wrong thing? Are you letting your dog know when it's doing the right thing? Are you practicing your engagement? Are you practicing your relationship building? Are you building mutual trust with your dog to help work them through nervous or stressful situations? If not, and all you're doing is correcting them in those moments, it's not going to be beneficial. You're not going to reach your goals because your dog, like you said, I've told many of my clients, hey, your dog does not trust you to control this environment. I mean, you need to practice engagement in these environments. You need to practice working them through these stressful situations. You know what I mean? So that's a big thing that I preach with my clients, especially with easily distracted dogs or high anxiety dogs. Like, hey, eye contact is going to be your best friend. You know what I mean? Like, corrections are important, accountabilities are important to show them you are, in control. You're a strong leader. You are, something that the dog needs to respect. But having that positive relationship and that focus building is so important. It goes a long way for a lot of dogs. You know what I mean? Like my personal dog, she's very high anxiety, and for a while I was really kind of like I'm not really contradicting myself, but for a long time ago, maybe a year or so ago, I was very on top of correcting a certain behavior. You know what I mean? It was reactivity. I was very on top of correcting that. But what has helped is engagement and eye contact and focus building, relationship building. That is what really made the difference compared to just like kind of how how we said with the mistakes prior. With trying to hammer out behaviors, it's like instead of focusing on that, focus more so on the positive, focus more so on having fun with your dog and building that relationship instead of trying to correct this behavior or hammer out this behavior. You know what I mean? So that's the biggest things I've seen is lack of consistency and lack of relationship building. You know what I mean? I think it needs to be a priority is relationship with your dog. 100%.
The two things that makes me think of, first of all, when you're talking about the inconsistencies at the house and then behaviors reemerge, that's always interesting to me because if let's say a dog was reactive, they want training, right? They get training, dog goes back home, dog's good to go for 4 months, and then it becomes reactive again. So what's really happening there? Most people don't want to hear this, but what's really happening is you're creating reactivity.
Yes.
And then they get a new dog, and that new dog gets reactive too. Yes. So what's the common factor here? It's you.
Exactly.
And I'm not trying to be a dick or anything, but it's like
exactly
there's things that you're doing that you're not even aware of that are creating reactivity in your dogs, right? So that's why when we are like working with people and we're at your house and we're saying certain things and we're trying to help you, be aware of the things that you're doing. If you're a dog owner listening to this, then it's like, hey, you got to listen to that. You got to listen to that because we have kind of like that outside perspective of like the inputs that you're giving to your dog. And going back to what Chris was talking about, how I forgot exactly what it was, but it was like made me think like Chris was saying, when the dog's with him for 6 weeks, the dog's fine. When the dog goes back home, there's a little bit of a problem. Chris is also an expert in his field. Like we're all an expert in our field, which is dog training. If I take my truck to a mechanic is an expert in the field, right? I'm not going to do mechanical work on my truck. I got no idea what I got to do. I got to YouTube it, right? But with dog training, we are the experts in the field. So it's like when we're there with you and we're helping you pick out things that you need to modify or prescribe you a certain protocol, you know, that's from our expertise of seeing what's going on and seeing what inputs you're giving your dog that are creating the behaviors that are annoying to you or you know, undesired by you. You see what I'm saying? And that's something that a lot of people miss, is that, you know, they have this dog that's doing this thing. It's because of what they're doing, right? And then what was your second lesson learned? Because I just went off on a tangent.
Lack of relationship.
Oh, lack of relationship. Yeah. So it's like, you know, that's the number one thing is relationship. And what we try to do with everyone that we work with is how can we incorporate some type of relationship building exercise in your daily routine without putting additional burden on your daily schedule, right? And for me, most of the time, it's like, hey guys, do some engagement while you're on your walk anyway.
Yeah.
If you're taking a 30-minute walk, take that 30 minutes to walk, to do your obedience drills and do your engagement training.
100%.
If you can just do all that within your 30-minute walk time period, you've kind of checked all your boxes, right? Then whenever you're home, you just do whatever you're doing at home. Because my big thing is everyone's busy, right? So I don't want to put extra burden on you as far as you have to do X, Y, Z this amount of times. I want to consolidate things and incorporate it in your schedule as much as possible. You see what I'm saying?
Well,
For sure.
While I agree, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm
here we go.
gonna also push a little bit, because there's also an element, because especially with dealing with certain dogs, when people get like these working dogs or herding dogs or like these cattle dogs, you know what I mean? I'm like, when I hear that of like, well, I don't have time to do this, or I don't want to do that, I'm like, there is a piece of this where there's discipline here, and it's like, suck it up. You have to do it. Like, these are the things you have to do. You have to walk your dog. You got to exercise your dog. You got to practice obedience. You got to do engagement. You got to do those things. Yes, we can consolidate, but there are dogs that it's like, you ain't gonna cram this into 30 minutes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
For
and
sure.
so there are people that it's like you either have to step up and do this and actually build work intentionally on the relationship with this dog, or you're not going to address the behavior. Like the behaviors will never change.
That is a good point. You know, there are dogs like that for sure that take more than just your twice a day 30-minute walk.
For sure.
JC, what's your
Well, mine was going to be a little bit with what Chris just said. You know, people aren't giving their dogs enough time. Like, they go into wanting to do a quick session after work. Like, I have met people who, like, they don't want to get up an extra 20 minutes in the morning to take their dog out before they go to work. And then their dog's sitting in a kennel for 8 hours. And then they come home and they're like, 20-minute walk will suffice. But that dog, especially with your anxious dogs, that dog's been sitting in there building up all this energy, and you're not giving it an outlet. So now we're not actually addressing these issues because they have all this physical energy, and you're just burning that, right? You're not wanting to do the engagement, so it goes back into some relationship stuff. I think a lot of owners just struggle understanding that relationship aspect, like how important that is, whereas then they just want to address the physical issue at hand, but they don't understand that coincides together, right? If you don't have that good relationship, that physical issue is not getting addressed because that dog, again, it doesn't trust you. Also, a lot of people like to anthropomorphize their dogs, right? You get a super anxious dog, and then, you know, they're getting anxious about people coming in the house, and all the owners like, oh, it's okay, over talking to their dog. They're overcomplicating things when realistically they need to keep it simple, give their dog a task to do, but also make sure they're burning that energy. So it just comes down to not wanting to put in the time, or not being able to have good time management. That's a struggle, which obviously everyone has a very different schedule, different lives. Some people have more things to do than other people. But if you get a dog, you're making that commitment. So you got to make sure you can find time in your day to give that dog what it needs.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's a good point. Like, because it can sound like we're attacking owners right now. Right? We're not. Okay, this is like, because it can come down to the education, because we've been saying, hey, you've got to work on the relationship with your dog, and that's kind of a blanket statement to somebody that doesn't live our life, and they may not understand. So like,
building a relationship is not snuggling with your dog on the couch for an hour.
Exactly.
You know
right.
what I mean?
So like, that can be because what do we do with our human children? We nurture them. We pick them up when they're scared. We do different things, and then we can to you know, us as if we are uneducated in that world, we just are going to do what comes naturally to us as human beings, and we think that is, well, we have a good relationship. I love my dog. I let them sit on the couch with me, and that's not bad, right? But that's not what we're talking about. Developing a relationship, right? And so that's, again, the importance of partnering with a dog trainer that knows the science and understands dog behavior and can coach you properly. That's not afraid to tell you the hard truths of how to develop that relationship with the dog.
Well, and a lot of people too, like, especially people getting these purebred dogs, like cattle dogs and stuff, like you were saying. Like, you have to find something that your dog enjoys doing too.
Yeah.
Like, not every dog wants to sit on the couch and snuggle, right?
Right,
Like,
right,
some
right.
of these dogs want to be out there in a field in the woods, like your hound dogs and stuff. Find
Yeah.
something that they enjoy doing and make that thing fun to do with you as well.
For sure. One thing that makes me think of that I've told people before is strong leadership is a strong relationship. You know what I mean? I've had people that are hesitant to correct their dogs. I had someone say to me, I don't want to correct him because I'm worried he's going to love me less. So I said to him right there, I was like, hey, showing strong leadership is going to build the respect and build a relationship from your dog, right? If you're going on a walk with your dog and your dog think it's leading you, it's in front of you, it's walking its own path. That's not like, yeah, we go on a 30-minute walk and maybe the dog has a good time. Is it focusing on you? Is it following your leadership? Is it building any sort of relationship with you, or is it doing its own thing all the time on your walks? You know what I mean? Like, so some people that it might not make sense. It's like your dog needs leadership to follow. Dogs thrive on leadership. You know what I
Right.
mean? Some people, it can be hard to explain that to them because they have a more human perspective on what relationship is.
Right.
So,
Or in your leash walking example, the dog's walking around doing whatever.
yeah,
That could be building anxiety.
True.
Could be building insecurity.
Exactly.
Right? Which is not going to help your relationship. It's going to hinder your relationship because now, instead of bonding with you, your dog's just practicing anxiety, which doesn't help you when you get home either.
For
You
sure.
know what I'm saying? So it all kind of links together. right?
absolutely.
But if you could do one thing, it's just work on your relationship with your dog. You know, there's a bunch of different ways to do that. Engagement work is ideal, right? When you're doing eye contact drills,
Anything
building up
interactive.
eye contact, walking in a structured position is a bonding thing, right? Spending quality time together. And when I say spending quality time together, for an anxious dog, that might be you have them tethered to you with the leash and you're sitting in your house, and instead of your dog anxiously pacing around, you have that leash next to you to where they are, essentially stuck next to you instead of just being anxious walking around and freaking out about every little thing.
Yeah.
Right? For an insecure dog, it could be having them on a leash in your house and not letting them go up underneath furniture to run away and hide from every little thing and foster insecurity. Right?
It's going to look different for every dog. for the most
Exactly.
part.
Every dog is a little bit different, right? So, but relationship is the number one thing that everyone should do, right?
Absolutely.
It's the number one thing you would do in training, period, right? So, but yeah, a lot of things we talked about. Again, we're not trying to hammer dog owners. We're not trying.
We're
to
trying to
hammer
educate here.
dog trainers. We're trying to bring to light some things we see and things we've learned from it. So maybe you see something and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense to me, right? Or yeah, I'm struggling with that too, and help it make sense to you, right? So everyone at this table right now has made a mistake in training, right? We hold each other accountable. We hold ourselves accountable, right? We're part of a professional development mindset here. So even if I see Chris doing something, I don't have to say something to him because he's already in his head aware of it himself. Now, sometimes we have to say things to people like, oh, you need a break or something, or we bounce ideas off of each other, but we're all, self-aware of ourselves, being self-conscious and trying to develop ourselves as time goes on. And I will say mistakes are a big part of a learning process, whether you're dog training, whether you're doing something else. Making mistakes helps you learn, right? Same thing for dogs. When dogs are training, when they make mistakes, they're learning, right? And so kind of the difference between being successful and having failure is recognizing a mistake that was made and immediately adjusting to try and avoid that mistake in the future, right? I don't know what the saying is off the top of my head, but it's like, if you fool me once, that's on you, right?
Yeah,
fool me twice, that's on me, right? Something like that. So it's like, if there's a mistake that's made, right, it's my responsibility to be aware of that and immediately adjust, right? If I make that mistake a second time, that's my fault. I'm not adjusting enough, right? I'm not taking enough action.
Well, sometimes the mistakes have to be made. Like if it
Right.
could be you're not pushing yourself. Sometimes you're like, I don't know the 100% correct answer right here in this scenario, but this is what we're going to try. Whoop, that was a mistake. Now we calibrate, right?
Right.
So sometimes that's just part of the process.
Right, exactly. So if you guys want some help with identifying your mistakes, you can let us know. We're more than happy to help you
We've made
identify
plenty of
yourself. Canine Revolution Dog Training, you can hit us up at the link below. You can hit us up on our website, caninerevolutiondogtraining.com. You can hit us up on any social media platform. We do board and train programs, right, no matter where you're at. So if you're in Texas, we are located in South Carolina. All we have to do is figure out the travel to get your dog from you to us and back home to you, right, which a bunch of people have done different things to do that, right? If you're in Tennessee, same thing, right? And, Chris has been training a lot of service dogs in training recently, right? A lot of service dogs in training. And so what that means is he has to go to hotels and train the dog in a hotel.
Yeah.
It means he has to travel, right, to different locations and take that service dog in training.
Restaurants.
Through that specific scenario.
Hotels.
I might be training a service dog in training this next year that I have to train at Disney World. I don't know. It might be on the books.
There are downsides to this job, people.
So anyway, if you need help, Canine Revolution Dog Training, like I said, board and trains, we got the private lessons. We've also got virtual lessons. So if you're a dog trainer and you want help, right, we can hop on a virtual call with you and get you the help you need. So don't hesitate to reach out. Also, Canine Revolution Dog Training has a new book. We talked a lot today about leash training, relationship. Boom, this book right here, the Ultimate Leash Training Manual. If you're watching the video, it's right here. The link below in the description below will take you to it on Amazon. But if you want to learn how to train your dog to walk on your proper walking position, right? If you want to learn how to build a relationship with your dog, if you want to take your training to the next level, you get the Ultimate Leash Training Manual, right? You read the manual a couple times, right?
It's good.
Make sure you know what to do. You look at the QR codes in the video in the book. QR code the video that corresponds with what you're learning in the book. You got the illustrations, right? Possibly some Canine Revolution alumni in some of those illustrations. Possibly some alumni that like potatoes. I don't know. But you look at the illustrations, you look at the videos, you read the book. You've got all resources available to help you take your training to the next level, right? Your relationship to the next level. It's 5 steps in the book to a well-behaved dog. It's come on, you can do it, right? So get the book, get started.
Cake.
Exactly.
It's only 5 steps.
Also, we've got Canine Revolution apparel. So if you want a Canine Revolution hoodie, you want a Canine Revolution shirt, you want a Canine Revolution beanie, just go to the link below. It's all on Amazon. So you can go to Amazon, you can get you a beanie and get you the Ultimate Leash Training Guide all at the same time in your cart. Boom, check out, good to go, right? We've also got the I Love Dogs coloring book. So that's on Amazon too. So you can put that in your cart while you're there. Description, link in the description down below. Now, if you want to feed your dog the optimal diet, I've had many discussions this year. We didn't really talk about this, but I've had dogs with liquid poop, right? Consistently, right? Or soft poop consistently. Or not with me, but like people are calling me. They're saying their dog has this problem, their dog has that problem. One of the problems might be potty training, right? One of the first things I'll ask them, what's your dog's stool look like? It's soft. What are you feeding them, right? I'm feeding them X, Y, Z. I'm like, have you looked into switching food? Yes, I've switched from the chicken to the beef, right? Kibble, for example, Purina, right? That's one of the number one brands a lot of people are feeding. I'm like, okay, well, let's check this out. Let's get them on some legit food, right? We get them on the legit food. It fixes the stool, fixes the potty training. Can you believe it?
I can believe it.
Also, if you got a dog that maybe you think, just how you get people on the phone and they're like, I don't know if my dog can even learn. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Those kind of people. Well, maybe they need some optimal nutrients to help them learn. That's where We Feed Raw comes in. So We Feed Raw is a raw dog food company. They have the raw meat patties. They have the freeze-dried raw. They ship it to your door. So that's going to get your dog in the optimal diet. So if you want to check out We Feed Raw, we actually have a new discount code. It's Canine Revolution 50, all caps spelt out, Canine Revolution 50. That gets you 50% off your first box. So you could go to the link below in the description, use that code. If you like it, you can keep using it. If you don't like it, you just stop. No big deal, but you got 50% off. Now, one thing I will say for a lot of people that have like budgetary concerns, if you're feeding kibble, it's still good to get a topper of raw food to take your nutrition to the next level, whether it's like the freeze-dried raw or just some of that raw patty, right? So definitely check that out. Also, Canine Super Supplements, and I have had to be in contact with them because they just switched owners. Canine Super Supplements, it's powdered supplements for your dog, the best supplements for your dog, period. But they just switched owners, and our discount code is not working right now. But that doesn't mean we ain't going to represent, because they got your dog's best interest in mind. So if you need to have your dog's immunity taken to the next level, You go to caninesupersupplements.com, you get that multivitamin, right? If you need your dog to gain some weight, you get the weight gainer, right? So they've got 4 main supplements. You can go to their website, check it out. The discount code was Canine Revolution, but it's not working right now, but still go on there and check out the supplements, right? But I am in communication. I'd like to try and get that resolved for you guys. Also, Monster Canine Toys, the best dog toys that you can get. If your dog destroys it, they will replace it. So you might as well try that out, especially if you got a hard chewer. Link in the description below. And then, of course, Jocko Fuel, right? Supporting you, the human, because if you're not supporting yourself, how are you going to support your dog? And I will say Jocko Fuel will support your dog too, right? Fish oil. Right? Fish oil for me, fish oil for Bane.
Keep
right?
their coats
Over there,
shiny.
Right, exactly. Good for the heart too, right? Also creatine for me, creatine for Bane, right? Milk for me, milk for Bane, right? So you got lots of options, right? But JockoFuel.com, we've obviously got the clean energy drinks. Me, Danny, and JC got ours right here. Chris already drank his before he got in here, right? So that's your clean energy. But I would say like the main hitters are the milk protein, because you got to get that protein in at least 1 gram per pound of body weight per day. And so for me, I take 2 scoops of milk a day, right, to help me get to that level, right? Also, you want the creatine, right? Start off with maybe 1 scoop, work your way up to 4.
4?
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
That's
That is a
excessive.
lot.
That's
I was
too
going to
much.
say 2, but
That's a waste of
depending
creatine.
on your goals, right? The fish oil, you definitely want to check out that fish oil. You know, there's just a bunch of good stuff on there, so go check it out, JockoFuel.com. Don't forget to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. If you like the videos, check them out on the Pack Talk Podcast YouTube channel. And that's all I got. That's all we got. Anything else?
No,
Anything else
covered
we got going on? Got a 5K coming up for the team, but you know,
well,
I think we're just manning the booth
we're
on
just
this
Yeah,
one.
hanging
yeah.
out. Hanging
Yeah, yeah.
out.
we
but
would
we
rather
did-
socialize with the people.
Exactly. We did do the huffing
We would
for the
run.
stuffing. We did do the 5K on Thanksgiving Day.
We did.
Right. We got there. We ran that 5K. Ben ran it. Ben, the camera guy. he's
I only
like,
did that because of the calories I was going to be intaking later on that day.
Definitely a lot of
Even
calories
that.
intaked. Well, also we had the Canine Revolution Thanksgiving. You guys remember that?
Oh,
Yeah.
I
May or
remember
may not
that.
be on video on the social media.
Check it out. Check it out. Keep an eye out for the Christmas video.
Christmas video
Christmas
incoming,
video,
right?
uh-huh.
And through the month of December, we are kind of doing a throwback to our old Christmas videos. So every week we're posting one of our old Christmas videos. We got some bangers, the old ones, but the new one, you know, we'll
Got some
see-
Santa
we'll see.
coming back into
Santa's
coming back into
Santa's
town.
coming back to town.
It's old school.
Exactly. So anyway, thank you guys for listening, and until next time, this is Pack Talk Podcast. Out.